What's up guys, this is Chris here, and today we're going to be going over some of my greatest misses. Certainly not greatest hits. If I had to pick 5 guns out of all the guns I've ever had that I would not want to have as my personal defense choice or my hunting gun or anything for any reason. And I was like, man, where's the criteria for this list? I was trying to think of guns that if I could find no reason whatsoever to buy them, I could throw it on this list.
That's not ideal.
Like if, for whatever reason, if it was a collector's item or it just kind of looked cool, it's immediately off this list. The guns on this list are guns that are so bad, there's literally no reason to buy them at all. Because not only are they terrible, but there's a bunch of reasons why they're terrible, and on top of that, they also have a lot of competitive options that you should buy instead. So hopefully, instead of just trashing a bunch of guns here, it'll be at least a little entertaining, but it'll also be educational. That way I can give you a couple of options other than these pieces of crap. With that being said, before we get into the video, I want to mention my Patreon supporters. Thank you guys. It's because of you we can make videos like this. Most of the guns, if not all the guns, were purchased via the Patreon dollar, so thank you guys very much. If you want to support the channel, all you got to do is go to the link in the description and sign up. Also in that description is a link to a local shelter in Ames, Iowa. It's the YSS. I really would appreciate if you guys would go down there, click that link, and donate a couple of dollars to those kids. It's a good deed. Feel good about yourself, and you'll also be helping somebody out. So let's get into the top 5 fail boats here with the Taurus PT.22. Now this little bastard is a single stack 22 long rifle, semi-automatic-ish handgun. And as you can see, single stack, 8-round capacity. This gun was originally designed for concealed carry or self-defense of some manner for people that had arthritis, disabled, or just simply couldn't run a slide, or just liked the idea of popping their barrel out and putting a round in. And when I saw this at a gun shop, I personally like that, so that's why I bought it. Problem is this thing is very unreliable, very hard to use, and very diminutive in caliber and very diminutive in capacity as well. Not only is it the same size as, let's say, a Ruger LCP 380, which has better caliber, a better action, and overall more reliable, not only does it barely ever function, but when it does function, it only shoots 22, which, yes, could be effective, but is probably the least effective caliber you should be carrying. Keep that in mind. It's cheap, it's fun to plink with, but this gun's unreliable, the sights are terrible, the trigger is awful. I can't even get my trigger finger in the trigger guard without moving the trigger enough to get it in. The action itself that they chose was similar to something like the Beretta Tomcat, but done really poorly with really poor materials. And because of that, it makes the action even harder to use than a standard pistol. If you want something that's easy to use, just buy a Ruger or Smith & Wesson or Colt Little Detective Special revolver. You can open the cylinder very easy, load them in easy with no spring pressure, and shut it. And on top of that, it'd be a good purse gun or concealed carry gun anyway. People dismiss those, but I gotta tell you, they've been working for 100 years, they're gonna be working for 100 more. This thing hasn't worked for 10 minutes. This is not a good design. So instead of this, get yourself a Ruger LCP, get yourself a Glock 42, get yourself one of the new SIG 380 365s. Now, we'll get into number 4 here, which is probably the best gun on the list, and that's saying a lot. This is probably the ATI Omni Hybrid. Now that is a budget-minded, I mean at the time I purchased it, it was the cheapest AR on the market. It has a polymer upper and lower receiver, extremely basic features, and one really big glaring weakness, and that is that it does not function barely at all. We're gonna shoot a little bit of the cheapest AR-15 on the market today, the ATI Omni. We're not gonna shoot that much, because apparently it has malfunctioned on me. We lubed it, we used different magazines, we used different ammunition, anywhere from 77 grain, very expensive stuff, all the way down to 55 grain, and even some frangible ammunition. None of that ammunition worked at all. The standard 55 and 62 grain that we used, the Fiocchi, the American Eagle, and the Hornady should have worked in any gun, and none of it functioned in that rifle. I like it even less now that there are other companies that make better rifles for the same price. If you look at those guns today, anywhere from $500 to $600. A Palmetto, you can get a Bear Creek Arsenal, or you could get Radical Firearms. And if you get a lot of these companies, not only do you get a better customer service record, you'll get a better track record, you get a more reliable rifle, but you also get a rifle with a lot more modern features, maybe like an M-LOK rail or a mag pull stop. The ATI is not only one of the most unreliable guns we've ever had on the channel, but it's one of the least impressive gas system, which means it's going to be beating up those pot metal parts even more. And catastrophic did happen, since it has a polymer upper receiver, it could be very terrible for you. So not only is it an unreliable system that may have trouble, but if it did actually have some serious trouble, you'd be in some trouble. Ends that, I suppose. That's the end of the review of the ATI Omni. If you want to have a good AR-15, don't buy a piece of shit. Now in at number 3 is a real piece of crap. We have the Kel-Tec KS7. Now if you never saw the KS7 on my channel, and you watch my channel a lot, there's a reason why. And that's because it never even got past the Instagram first look.
This is the worst thing I've ever shot.
We shot that gun. Well, I don't think we got more than 15 shells into that gun before it shot itself to literal pieces. Previous to that, we barely had any functionality whatsoever to begin with.
Okay.
Uh-oh, did I do that?
No, I did it.
What happened?
Appears we have a feeding issue of some kind. Some kind of disaster apparently in there.
Add the fact that it barely works to the customer service track record of Kel-Tec, which has amazing designs. Kel-Tec has a lot of really good designers. They have a lot of really good ideas for firearms, but they're usually put into action very poorly. Their manufacturing processes and their materials are very cheap, and you can feel them when you pick the guns up.
Why do we keep getting KSGs?
It was cheap and it looks cool.
I like the KS7 as an idea. It's a bullpup shotgun, bullpup 12 gauge, so it's short, lightweight, so it'd be very pointable in close quarters, which is what shotguns are meant for in the first place. However, it's a convoluted system done with really poor manufacturing, with really poor materials. And because of that, you have reliability issues. The gun's very sticky, it's very hard to use, it's very unreliable, and it's very hard to load and operate the gun because it is a bullpup shotgun. I wouldn't trust anything that said Kel-Tec on it with my life. However, there are some products that I do like from Kel-Tec if you're interested. The new, 5.7 pistol was very cool. That being said, if you're looking for a cheap shotgun, for the love of God, just go the normal route. You know, you can get an Ithaca, you can get a Mossberg or a Mossberg Maverick 88 for like $200. That will be twice the gun of the Kel-Tec KS7. The best part about the KS7 is around the time that my gun was falling apart, American Rifleman made it the gun of the year. Can you imagine picking that gun up and being like, I'm gonna sell to the people that this is the gun of the year? That's why I love gun magazines, man. All right, now in at number 2 is the Remington RP9. Attaboy, Remington. Way to just take one of the best and greatest American gun manufacturers and just run it straight into the ground. I mean, imagine the company that used to make the 700 and lots of iconic guns like the 870 and just coming out with this piece of crap. The RP9 is a striker-fired polymer frame pistol with a 4¼ inch barrel, if my memory serves me, that weighs around 26 ounces. And its claim to fame is that it's arguably the worst striker-fired polymer frame pistol. They come in around $400 and they are absolute jam-o-matics. If you're interested in clearing malfunctions, buy this gun. Like if you have a Glock right now or a Smith & Wesson or some reputable brand that works all the time and you're just bored with it, I would recommend going out and purchasing an RP9, and that way you will be awesome at clearing stovepipes, double feeds, you name the malfunction, the RP9 will give it to you. Well, on top of that, it has some of the worst trigger mechanics in the history of guns. The trigger is mushy, weird, and it breaks kind of hard at the end. It has no audible or tactile reset, and on top of that, it slaps you in the finger every time you shoot it, making it even more enjoyable to shoot. If you've never had trigger slap, it basically just hits you in the finger every time you shoot it, and it gives you like this little flick. And if you do that 500-600 times in a row, it's a good time. It's not like I'm hitting on cheap polymer guns, because I love cheap polymer guns, I do. The APX is at the same price, much better gun. The Canik TP9 series is at that same price, much better gun. What else is up there? The M&P original and the Glock Gen 3s are around that price as well, $400 to $500. By all means, go out and get one of those. Those will serve you very, very well. You'll have access to their wealth of holsters and magazines and accessories, whereas the RP9 is essentially a dead boat in the water because it sucks so bad nobody bought it, so there's no customer service or aftermarket service for it at all. I had to put this on the list, even though nobody's probably going to buy an RP9 anymore. Just make sure if you see it in the gun shop, avoid it at all costs. For this list, we'll have a couple of honorable mentions because this was almost the top 10. Maybe if you want to see more about these in the future, you want to see more guns that just kind of suck that you want to avoid, let me know in the comment section below. Also, let me know guns that were not on this list that you think suck, because it is kind of fun to have a dumpster fighter video every once in a while. That being said, I almost put the Gideon Shadow on this list because I fucking hate that gun, but I also recognize that it's a UMP clone and that you might want to buy it to just put it on a wall, and that would already be more useful than the other guns that are on this list. Even though it is expensive, it does look good, so there is that. Another couple of guns that I wanted to put on this list, I thought about putting the Taurus 608, but I didn't want to have more than one Taurus. I could have also put the PT1911. Another gun that I was thinking about was the DPMS G2 Recon. That gun actually got me into reviewing guns because I saw a lot of people that were paid by Remington doing reviews on that gun, and I had that gun while I was watching those reviews, and the gun that I saw in the reviews did not operate like the gun I had. As a matter of fact, the gun came out of the box without even working, and it continued to not work through the entire time I owned it, even though I sent it back a couple of times. Thanks, Remington. Remington owned DPMS at the time. Now we'll get to number one here, which I really doubt could be anything else. I have a video titled The Worst Gun Ever. And that gun is the gun that's at number one here, and that is going to be the Century Arms Ultra 87. Now that's a gun that's going to be relatively hard to find, I think, hopefully, due partially to me. That gun was an imported Chinese Remington 870 clone with probably the softest metal on a receiver or a bolt that I've ever seen. The gun barely cycled when we bought it. We bought it for around $200, and we shot about maybe a box of ammunition through it by the time the bolt sheared off and the rails on the inside of the receiver also sheared off. So we tried to put a Remington 870 bolt in there to no avail because, like I said, the receiver was already trashed inside anyway, and we pretty much just called that gun a loss. Buying a gun and shooting less than a box of ammunition through it before it breaks completely and is not repairable is hard to swallow. I gotta say. And I say that a lot because it's like $200 for that gun. You can buy a used 870 for $200. You can buy a Mossberg Maverick 88 for $200. That's a real thing, or at least it was at the time I purchased that. And I imagine the prices are comparable now. Let's say they were $200 then, they're probably $300 or $400 now. But the reality is there's literally no reason to buy that gun at all because there's so many cheap, even Turkish-made shotguns that work so much better. So if you see an Ultra 87, definitely stay away from it. I don't have a lot of information other than the fact that I absolutely hated the gun and that it fell apart within a couple of rounds. If you're interested in any more information on any of these guns, we do have full reviews on all of them, I do believe. All you'd have to do is just look up Honest Outlaw and look up whatever gun that I'm talking about. Anyway, thanks for coming down this journey of pain through memory lane here of the last 5 years. Hopefully this year we'll have a few better firearms than some of the ones on this list, but maybe to spice it up, we'll have some shitty ones too. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Please help out your local homeless shelters, and remember to recycle. I'll check you later.
There's a whole lot of potential dick jokes in there that you didn't even...
Oh, really?
You didn't even acknowledge.
You gotta drop them on me then.
I can't do this.
Oh, yeah.
This really hurts.
Okay.
This is the worst thing I've ever shot. Maybe the last KSG we had.
Yeah, I told you the bullpup
really
the bullpup 12 gauge is no punk, and you're shooting just 8-shot right now. Imagine a slug or a buckshot round.
This is not my gun. This is not for me.